Biden's trying to get an infrastructure plan passed, and if he gets his infrastructure plan passed, the infrastructure plan that he's trying to pass will give $1 billion for the Great Lakes cleanup. Now, this is coming out of Lorain, Ohio. President Joe Biden declared Thursday that a $1 billion infusion from the bipartisan infrastructure deal would restore the Great Lakes harbors and tributary rivers that had been polluted by industrial toxins. Now, President Biden ventured close to the banks of Lake Erie to speak in Lorain, Ohio, which is a small city that once housed a shipbuilder, a Ford plant, and a U.S. steel factory, and now they're adapting to a post-industrial economy. Now, Biden pledged that the investment in cleaning the waterways was about as much as about jobs and the environment, citing a note that Democratic Representative Marcy Kaptur, who attended Thursday's event, handed to him after an address last year to a joint session of Congress. Now, the letter was addressing the Great Lakes. President Biden said they support more than 1.3 million jobs in manufacturing, tourism, transportation, warehousing, farming, and fishing. The Biden's trip to northeast to the Northeast Ohio comes at a crucial political moment as the state's Republican Senator Rob Portman, Biden's partner on the infrastructure deal, is retiring. Now, this has left open a Senate seat this year that Democrats are hoping to claim, despite the state's swing toward the GOP. Now, the $1 billion for the Great Lakes from the bipartisan measure that was enacted in November, combined with annual funding through an ongoing recovery program, will enable agencies by 2030 to finish work on 22 sites designated a quarter century ago as among the region's most degraded, officials had said Thursday. Now, the lakes provide drinking water for 40 million people, and they underpin the economy in 8 northeastern and midwestern states and 2 Canadian provinces. They feel a 20th century industrial boom that generated wealth and jobs but caused a lot of ecological devastation. Notorious images from the region, including flames on the surface of the Cuyahoga River, which flows into Lake Erie at Cleveland, helped inspire the enactment of the Clean Water Act and other signature environmental laws. Now, the U.S. and Canada listed 43 sites, 31 of them being listed in the U.S. as toxic hotspots back in 1987, largely because of contaminated sediments that make the water sustainable for fishing, swimming, and other uses. Now, but while cleanup plans were crafted, they languished with little funding until the Obama administration kicked off the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative back in 2010. Now, it's been one of the few matters on which the region's congressional Democrats and Republicans routinely agree on. They thwarted the squatter Donald Trump's early efforts to gut that program, which GOP lawmakers from Michigan eventually persuaded him to support. Because of progress under the initiative, which has received nearly $4 billion, the Environmental Protection Agency has dropped 6 areas of concern from the list and finished work at 11 others. They also removed after scientists determined that they recovered, depending on factors such as to whether the wildlife population is thriving. Now, the more than 6,000 projects funded under the Restoration Initiative also deal with some of the lake's other biggest problems. They include invasive species such as the quagga mussels that unravel the food chains, toxic algae blooms caused by agricultural runoff and sewage overflow, and a loss of wetlands and other wildlife habitat. Now, the $1 billion bonus from the infrastructure package will enable the EPA and other federal agencies to devote more resources to those issues from the program's core budget. Congress voted separately in 2021 to increase the initiative's annual funding from like $3 million to $474 million over a 5-year span. The Great Lakes are North America's most important source of fresh water, and President Joe Biden is delivering on his promise to restore them for the millions of people and thousands of wildlife species that they support, said Colin O'Mara, who's president of the National Wildlife Federation. Now, critics say that the program has shortchanged low-income minority communities, and its focus on fixing past damage ignores the need for tougher rules to prevent future harm. Why restore a lake while another um, Why restore a lake while another degrades? Michael Isham, who's an executive director of the Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission, and during a recent workshop sponsored by the nonprofit Institute for Journalism and Natural Resources, the EPA said it would distribute the $1 billion from the infrastructure measure in keeping up with the Biden pledge to deliver at least 40% of the benefits from crucial federal investments to underserved communities. Now, most of the infrastructure funds will be used for the hotspot cleanups, officials said during a news briefing ahead of Biden's Ohio trip. Of the 25 U.S. sites still on the list, only 3 are expected to need further work by 2030, officials have said. They include the St. Lawrence River in New York and Michigan's Kalamazoo River, as well as the Saginaw River and Bay. Among those where work should be done by then are Waukegan, Illinois, the Grand Calumet River in Indiana, the St. Louis River in Minnesota and Wisconsin, and the Black and Cayuga Rivers in Ohio, the Niagara and Buffalo Rivers, the 18-mile and the Rochester Embayment in New York, Wisconsin's Fox River, Milwaukee's Estuary and Sheboygan, and Michigan's Muskegon Lake, River Raisin, and Torch Lake, along with the Clinton Detroit and Manistee and Rogue and St. Clair and St. Mary Rivers. And so if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King. And if you want to support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon on the About section for my YouTube channel to support the work even further.